The Garblin's been swinging a hot bat of late, 7 for his last 15. Here's the 2-1. Deep to left. That ball is gone. The crowd loves it. I've never heard this much generic Goblin noise.
Hey gang, using the promo code MTGMudsta, one word, all caps, will get you 10% off orders of $10 or more at Flipside Gaming, Original Magic Art, and orders of singles at Multizone. If they don't have what you're looking for, you could check out TCG Player and use my affiliate link to help support the channel. Looking for a way to bling out your deck and not spend a fortune? Alter Sleaze can help with that, and you can help with the channel at the same time by using my affiliate link. Or, if you're looking to join the Goblin Gang, you can always support me through Patreon. Today's game is another way back one, with me filming at Platinum Star Games back when I used to live in New Jersey. We have Zach playing Kambal, and his opening hand is a Plains, a Swamp, Zulaport Cutthroat, Dark Petition, Blood Baron of Viscopa, and a Westphal Abbey. Adam, also known as Fox Noctum on YouTube, is playing his Marath deck, keeping Command Tower, Reflecting Pool, Gavany Township, Survival of the Fittest, Sneak Attack, Breath of Life, and a Craterhoof Behemoth. Bill is playing his Muldrotha deck, keeping a Forest, an Island, a Swamp, Primal Growth, Spore Frog, and an Underrealm Lich. Dean is back playing Slimefoot again, keeping a Swamp, a Forest, Rampant Growth, Elvish Farmer, Vitaspore Thallid, and Regeneration. Adam wins a die roll and starts us off. Adam draws and plays Command Tower. Zach plays his newly drawn Forbidden Orchard, passing. Dean drops a Swamp. Bill draws and plays a Forest. He pays 1 green for a Spore Frog. Adam plays a Reflecting Pool, and then pays 2 mana for Survival of the Fittest before passing turn. Zach plays a Plains, and taps 2, giving Dean a Spirit token. He uses that mana for a Syndic of Tithes, and passes to Dean. Dean drops a Forest, and then pays 2 mana for a Vitaspore Thallid. Bill plays a Blighted Woodlands, and goes to combat. He hits Adam for 1 with a Spore Frog, which must be very confusing for it, and he passes turn. Adam plays a Gavany Township, and passes. Zach plays a Reflecting Pool of his own, and then taps 3 mana, giving Adam the Spirit. This mana is used for Viscopa Guildmage, which he extorts, draining from his opponents 1 life each while gaining 3. He then goes to combat, hitting Bill with the Syndic. Dean gets a counter on his Thallid during his upkeep, and in his main phase doesn't have a land, and has to cast a Rampant Growth. He passes while searching. Bill's turn is kind of the same, with him playing an island and then casting Primal Growth. He pays the kicker, sacrificing the Spore Frog, and goes to his library to grab 2 basics for the field, putting them into play tapped. At the end of turn, Adam uses his Survival of the Fittest, discarding the Regal Force and going to find a creature. He reveals a Wood Elves, putting it to hand, and then shuffling. Adam untaps and draws. He plays a Wooded Foothills for turn and casts Wood Elves. He shortcuts, sacrificing the Foothills at the same time and taking 1 to go and find 2 lands. He grabs a Taiga and a tapped Temple Garden. He then passes while shuffling. Zach plays a Swamp for turn and brings out Kambal. He has to give someone the Spirit again, and this time Adam gets it, and he also pays the 1 for the Extort, draining his opponents for 1 while gaining 3. Moving to combat, the Guildmage and the Syndic go at Bill. Dean adds another counter to his Thallid in his upkeep, and sadly he seems to be missing his land drop for turn. He plays an Elvish Farmer and passes to Bill. Bill untaps and plays a Swamp. He taps enough for an Underrealm Lich, and then passes to Adam. Adam draws and pays 3 mana for an Eternal Witness. It comes in, and returns to hand the Wooded Foothills, which Adam then replays and recracks, taking 1 to go and find a land. He puts to field a mountain, and once he's done shuffling, pays 3 more mana, but this time 1 of each color, to cast Marath. His commander comes in with 3+1/+1 counters, and Adam then passes. Zach untaps and draws, playing another land. He taps 2 for a Tithe Drinker, giving Dean the Spirit this time, and then casts a Zulaport Cutthroat, extorting the Cutthroat as he casts it. This has him gaining 3 again, and each opponent losing 1 life. He then passes to Dean. Dean gains another counter on his Vitaspore Thalid during his upkeep, and 1 on his Elvish Farmer. He pays 1 green and 1 black to get a Winding Constrictor, which seems like it could work well in his deck, and Dean then passes. Bill looks at his top 3 cards with a Lich ability, and puts 2 into his graveyard, keeping 1 of them for his hand. He plays an island, and casts Muldrotha. He's left 1 forest up to recast the Spore Frog from his graveyard using Muldrotha's ability, and Bill then passes. Adam untaps and draws. He rearranges his mana, and then taps 4 of it for an Academy Rector. With his Rattlesnake blocker out, he comfortably passes to Zach. Zach plays a Swamp for turn, and then taps out completely. He gives Adam another Spirit token, which I'm not entirely sure is wise, but Adam seems happy enough about it. This has Zach casting a Blood Baron that he's had since his opening hand, and he extorts it as he casts it. His opponents lose 1, while he gains 3 more life, and Zach then passes. Dean gets 2 counters on his Thalid and his Farmer this upkeep because of the Constrictor. He still can't find a land to save his life, but at least he's able to cast his own copy of Zulaport Cutthroat before passing. Bill's draw is once more replaced by the Lich, looking at his top 3. And he puts 1 to hand and bins the rest. He casts a Buried Alive, which triggers Kambal, which will have Bill getting drained for 2. Adam responds to this, removing 2 counters from Marath to deal 2 damage to the Rector. With it dying, he chooses to exile it, and gets to go into his library to find an enchantment card and put it into play. It's Mirari's Wake, and not the Rest in Peace I figured it would be, and Bill then gets to resolve his Buried Alive. He finds a Reclamation Sage, Elves of Deep Shadow, and Jace Vryn's Prodigy. At this point, Adam kind of regrets his sequencing now, and Bill then pays 2 to cast a Simic Signet from his yard, and still has enough after that to cast his Reclamation Sage. It enters, blowing up the Wake without a second thought. Zach also reminds Bill he gets drained for another 2 from Kambal seeing the Signet being cast. Adam untaps and draws. He also seems to be missing his land drops, and he pays 4 mana to cast Breath of Life. This is one of those white cards I don't see very often, and it lets him bring back the Regal Force. He gets drained for 2 from Kambal, and then draws 4 cards as the Force enters because he has 4 green creatures. Adam finds his land for turn among them, playing a Clifftop Retreat, and taps 2 more for Sakura Tribe Elder before passing turn. Zach's turn is very quick, with him drawing, playing a Swamp, and passing. Dean adds 2 more counters to his Farmer and his Thalid on his upkeep, and draws for turn. 2 mana is tapped for Diabolic Intent, sacrificing 1 of his Spirit tokens that Zach had given him. Zach also gets a Kambal trigger for this, and with the ability still in the stack, he activates the Vizkopa's Guildmage's ability that whenever he gains life, each opponent loses that much life. Dean is then drained for 2, with Zach gaining 2, and then the Guildmage has each opponent losing 2 again. Dean then drains his opponents each for 1 with the Zulaport Cutthroat, seeing his token die. He then finally gets to resolve the Diabolic Intent and tutors for a card to hand. We know it's a Myriad Landscape because he plays it tapped immediately, and Dean then passes. Bill has his Lich's ability resolve again, looking at his top 3, and he keeps 1 and puts the rest into his graveyard. In his main phase, he taps 1 black and 1 green for Glowspore Shaman, which as it enters, mills Bill for 3. He decides to not use the second part of the ability, not putting a land on top of his library, and we then see an Elves of Deep Shadow from his graveyard as his creature for turn with Muldrotha. Bill then plays an Evolving Wilds from his graveyard as a land for turn with Muldrotha's ability, and then taps 3 mana for Phyrexian Altar. This drains him for 2 thanks to Kambal. He then moves to his end step and sacrifices the Evolving Wilds. Adam gets in on this too, sacrificing his Sakura Tribe Elder. Before going to search though, Adam uses the 1 land open he has to remove the last counter from Marath, doing 1 damage to the Zulaport Cutthroat. With the Cutthroat dying, all of Zach's opponents are drained for 1. Bill then finds a tap Swamp, while Adam grabs a tap Forest. Adam draws and goes to combat. He turns his creatures sideways at Zach, Zac decides to block like so, and before damage is dealt, activates the Vizkopa Guildmage again. This has it so that when he blocks the Blood Baron and gains 4 life from the lifelink, each opponent loses 4. He then takes 6 from the unblocked creatures. In his second main phase, Adam then plays out Wrath of God. Adam gets drained for 2 from Kambal, and Zac's Guildmage does another 2 to each of Zac's opponents. And responding to this trigger, Dean makes 2 tokens from his Thallid and 1 from his Farmer. This has Dean's version of the Zulaport Cutthroat triggering 8 times as the board gets wiped. And Bill also pays 4 life to keep his Lich around by giving it Indestructible. Once this is all done, Adam then casts a Commander Sphere and passes. Zac untaps and draws. He pays 5 mana in his main phase to recast his commander and passes to Dean. Dean draws and plays a Tainted Woods. He pays 5 mana, wishing he'd had this card out on his last turn, and we see a Savage Thallid, whose Regenerate ability would have been very useful against a board wipe. Like most people, Adam has never heard of this card, and asks for a closer look. Bill just does Lich things on his draw step, and he decides to cast a Kakusho in his main phase. He sacrifices the dragon to the altar, making 1 black, but more importantly, draining each opponent for 5 and gaining 15. Using the 1 black mana he made from the altar, he casts a Viscera Seer before passing to Adam. At the end of turn, Adam activates Survival with Commander Sphere, and discards a Craterhoof Behemoth, which I'm pretty sure is considered sacrilegious in EDH. He reveals a Restoration Angel, and puts it to hand, and starts his turn. Adam then untaps his permanents, and draws. He pays 4 mana to cast Sneak Attack, and gets drained for 2 by Kambal. He activates it for 1 red, putting out Kiki Jiki, and suddenly his choice for Restoration Angel makes a lot more sense. He then pays 1 more red to cheat out said angel. He's now able to make infinite angels at this point, since each new one will blink Kiki, who re-enters untapped and can immediately tap to make another token. All the tokens also gain haste, and everyone's pretty much out of answers at this point, and they extend the hand, and Adam wins the game. Game review time. So I was really surprised with how well Zac's deck did, considering the first few cards he seemed to cast seemed almost exclusively like draft picks that he'd cobbled together. He drained a ton of life from his opponents, as you saw by Bill and Adam's very low life totals. Dean unfortunately didn't do very much this game, and I'm kind of surprised by this considering his opening hand. It had 2 lands, a piece of ramp, and mostly cards that he could cast early on anyway. Unfortunately though, it seemed like he just didn't draw any more lands. Bill certainly seemed intent on hurting himself the entire game, dropping to 2 mostly because he kept casting non-creature spells. I think this game was actually the first time that I ever saw someone attack with a Spore Frog as opposed to keeping it back and sacrificing it, so that was kinda neat. Adam does a good job of showcasing that no matter how expensive cards are in your deck or how shiny they are, if you sequence things poorly, you can get punished. That Mirari's Wake play was unfortunately really bad for him since it cost him a really strong card and an enchantment, and if he'd waited like maybe 1 or 2 more minutes, as the phases changed, he probably could have kept it on the field. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/mtgmudsta. And lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/mtgmudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.